In this presentation, we will start to consider a much more personalised approach to what leadership means. So I'm afraid I'm not going to give you a magic trick or a magic plan that will make you a great leader, I'm afraid. What we are about is creating this grounded approach and building up what this leader looks like, and that starts with you. But just before we do that, I'm just going to set some context around my own experiences. And for me, why this is important is that we know there are a million leadership books out there, but let's be honest, we know there aren't a million great leaders. So we need to be a little more nuanced in our understanding and our thinking. Throughout my career, and especially in the NHS, I've mastered the role of being the odd one. I find in many organisations there's a norm for what a leader looks like and how they behave. And it's very easy to be caught up and influenced by this one way. That might be the extroverted leader, the decisive leader, but this can be at the exclusion of the thoughtful, considerate or participative leader. So being the odd one, and you may or may not be surprised to learn that, isn't about being argumentative or difficult for the sake of it. But being different can be as effective as being the norm. From an academic perspective, my curiosity or concern is with a narrow and instrumental way in which management and leadership is taught. And drawing from critical authors, I want to avoid the selling of these neutral techniques that supposedly enable us to rationally manage, predict and control a variety of organisation and social phenomena. What I'm trying to say is much of the general leadership books, academic literature, will drive you towards a particular type. Just remember, you don't have to follow the norm to be successful. The picture, if anybody hasn't realised, is of a Norm Peterson from the American 80s sitcom Cheers, so apologies for the very out-of-date cultural reference. Let's have a look at another questionnaire. This one is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, or MBTI, as it's often referred to. You can see a lot more information in Barr and Dowding 26 to 28. It's a self-completed questionnaire, and it aims to identify individual preferences in how people perceive the world around them and make decisions. This is useful and has been used in business, and I've seen it used in organisations as a way to help individuals and teams develop better insight in terms of how they function, and importantly, the differences between team members. It is worth, though, me saying right now that the MBTI is not a scientifically proven form. There are issues in terms of the scientific discipline and rigour that sit behind it. For example, poor validity, not having predictive power, and sometimes poor reliability, so getting different results for the same person on different occasions. But I'm not offering it to you as a scientific tool to determine your personality type. That's not what I'm aiming to do here, but it's just giving you an oversight of a tool that is quite helpful for you to think about types, in particular within the context of leadership. So the personality type test asks a set of questions of you and enables to map you against these 4 dimensions of either extroversion or introversion. This is one that particularly appeals to me, as naturally I'm an introvert. It helps me to have a different conversation with those people that are more extrovert. The next dimension is, how do you prefer to take information in? Are you sensing, or do you work in terms of intuition? Sensing being you focus on the reality of how things are, you pay attention to facts and details. Or from intuition, do you imagine the possibilities of how things could be, or think in terms of the big picture? The third dimension is how you prefer to make decisions. Are you thinking or are you feeling? Thinking being making decisions in an impersonal way, objective logical reasoning, or feelings, basing the decisions on personal values and how your actions affect others, for example. And the final dimension is judging and perceiving. How do you prefer to live your outer life, the life that others see of you? Judging is you prefer to have matters settled or think rules and deadlines should be respected. Whereas perceiving, you prefer to leave your options open, see rules and deadlines as flexible, for example. And when you complete the questionnaire, the test identifies you on either one of those four continuum, and so you will identify whether you're introvert or extrovert, sensing or intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, perceiving. And you can see then the 16 different types, the combinations of those examples there on the screen. What it can help you to do is have a think about your own style, but then, as I say, it helps you to compare yourself to others. So, for example, having completed the test for me over a number of times, I've generally come back with a similar kind of personality type, and this is the kind of summary for my particular personality type, INFJ. They describe that as an idealist counsellor. I'm supposedly insightful and brilliant individual who understands the complexities of relationships and what makes people tick, or what's not to like about that. And so again, let's be really careful here. You know, we're all going to like the nice things that it says about us. What I think is really interesting is when you look below this, it can give you different ways of why and where people might frustrate or upset you that have the different personality type. And that's where I find this tool to be very useful. And you can look online. I'll show you one of the tools that's available for you to be able to see how you compare to other types. And so for me, my particular personality type, INFJ, my struggles are I don't fit really within any character. So I'm very much feeling, judging, so too emotional for those hard thinkers, but then I still display a level of rationality for those perhaps artistic type. So I end up not fitting in anywhere. And it's not saying that I can't be extrovert, it's not saying I can't be any of the other types, but this seems to be a reasonable account of my particular preferences.
There are reports that there is no evidence of a direct link between Baghdad and some of these terrorist organizations.
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
Excuse me, but is this an unknown unknown?
I'm not.
Several unknowns, and I'm just wondering.
I'm not going to say which it is.
But, Mr. Secretary,
I'm right here. I'm right here.
This is Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of State for Defense in the US in 2002, relating to the lack of evidence to support military action at the time. But what he's doing was actually referring to Johari's window, a useful tool for leadership. Let me explain. So what Donald Rumsfeld was actually drawing from was this idea called Johari's window. This was created by Joe Luft and Harrington Ingham, and it's their names joined together that got to Johari. And what this is often used as a technique that helps people to better understand their relationship with themselves and with others. So what it tries to identify is the known knowns are those things that are known about you and that are known to others around you. The known unknowns are those that you know about yourself, but others around you might not know. The next area is the unknown unknowns. That is, you might not have the insight over something you do or the way you behave or the way you act, and others aren't aware of it either, maybe at this point in time or in the future. The fourth and final one, which is often the most powerful one in the context of developing your own leadership approach is the unknown known, and that Lufton Ingham referred to as a blind spot. So you're not aware of an issue of the way you interact with others that others can see. So the known, we're all aware of the issues. The known to self but not known to others is the private elements of who you are. But it's the blind spot. It's the things that you don't know about yourself that others see that is the area that you might want to focus on. I'd like you now to have a go at this. You can take the link from the screen, or the link is also on Blackboard. If you look at learning material, session 3, you'll find a link you can click on to take you to it. But let me explain a little bit more about it. But give it a go. The link takes you to a page. On that page will be 55 adjectives, and you pick 5 or 6 of those words you would use to describe yourself. You put your name in the box and hit submit, and then what it'll do is it'll show you your initial Johari window, and all the adjectives you've chosen will sit within the facade quadrant. So those are the things that you know about yourself, and it's suggesting at that time not known by others. But what you then do is you can see a link to share with you as many colleagues as you like, who will then, not knowing your choices, select 5 or 6 words to describe you. And then you can see how your window evolves. There will be attributes that you and colleagues identify as the same. Those will appear in that in the arena quadrant. Some they identify that you don't. Those would be your blind spot. And then there will be those that you have identified that they haven't, that will remain in your facade. All the other characteristics that neither you nor they identify sit within that unknown box. Now, this is not an exact science. It is limited in the adjectives identified, but it may provide some insight into how others perceive you, and that's compared with how you perceive yourself. And this understanding can help you to consider your own leadership approach. So I'd urge you to look at both of the tools that we've just touched on, Johari's window, helping you to see how you view others and others view you, and also the MBTI personality test with a full health warning that this isn't a scientific tool, and have a look at the different types and see which types work well with each other. This will help you to think about your own particular leadership style. Be really keen to discuss those with you. Have a go at the self-assessment tools. Be critical of yourself to start with, but remember they are not absolute and they are not fixed, they are guides. The links and additional information to support both are on the course sites. So in summary, think about leadership. It is important, but there are no golden bullets or quick read text that can guarantee you an outcome you want. I would recommend looking at the NHS framework, as this provides a structure to understand leadership in a health setting, and use the tools here to assess your own preferences. This should provide you with the insight and approach to start thinking about leadership.